Hello, everyone. It's Stacy from Achievers Prep. Welcome to this edition of It's All Education, the podcast. I have a wonderful guest here with me today that is going to come to you and enlighten you and educate you and tell you about all of the wonderful programs that she is involved in right now. Okay, take it away, Miss Juanita McDonald.
Hello, Miss Allen. How are you? And thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of Achievers Prep. What an awesome organization that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, can you tell us today about what it is you do? First of all, tell my audience who you are and what it is you do.
Okay, I am Dr. Juanita McDonald, founder and executive director of Re-Discover Me Women Initiative, Rediscover Me Women Facebook community, as well as Clubhouse, Mental Elevation Club Room. And what we do inside of our organization is we work with women that are affected by abuse, trauma, and mental health. Our aim in that organization is to inspire her through education, through activities to rediscover the me that she strives to be. And we've been doing this unofficially since 2016. It became official last year, January 2020. And it took off before I did. And I'm excited to say we didn't know the degree of resources that was needed within our community. But what I found is that there are a lot of women who are going through different things. And what we did in our initial program, because we did stumble on it by accident, was beginning to look at the identity of a woman and how she began to, after a certain stages, which is how it started, after a certain stage, we began to realize, guess what? I lost that myself. I don't know who I am and what it is, that I wanted to do. But as I began to do my internship with the domestic violence through one of our local organizations, I discovered that there was no way that I could focus on identity without addressing abuse, trauma, and mental health. And so, therefore, that's why we revamped our program, relaunched, and came back out with, inspiring women affected by abuse, trauma, and mental health. To rediscover the me she strives to be. And that helped us to begin to hone in more so on that area of those areas of intersectionality that we, especially as African American women, the things that we go through and all the interconnections that we have to uphold. And so we don't fit that cookie cutter mode, as you know. Brown women, they don't fit that cookie cutter mode. And so we have to begin to identify those factors in order to begin to support and I don't say that they become healed. I say, I use more of managing that healing. In order for us to teach that sister how to manage her healing, we need to be able to interconnect with her based on who she is culturally. And that has been our shining star that we stand upon.
I love that. I so totally agree with everything that you were doing. That is one of the reasons why I asked you here today, is because obviously my platform is about education. So, in having you come here today, one of the areas or topics that I wanted to cover in everything that I'm providing for education in the BIPOC community is a place for mental health and wellness. So you can be the person that kicks off our mental health and wellness series. And I just wanted to have you tell the people for just a moment how they can reach out to you if they want to know more.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. We definitely are on all social media platforms, which is Rediscover Me Our website is rediscovermewi.org, rediscovermewi.org. But we're on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter, and it's under the hashtag underscore discover underscore me. The uniqueness of the way that Rediscover Me is spelled is RE hyphen discover, and me is capitalized ME. That was intentional. I know people are looking at me like, all of this, I can't keep up with this. But listen, it was very, very intentional because the word me stands for mental elevation. Our aim starts with education. That's why being on this platform was so important. Everything that we do focus on educating the woman.
That is
And so, yes.
that is so perfect. That is why you and I connected right off the bat. Now I want to ask you something very specific, okay, with regard to mental health and mental wellness, especially in the BIPOC community dealing with women of color. Are you finding that we have traumas, generational traumas that affect our mental health today?
Yes, we do. There's a word, and I don't know if you've heard it, but I think you've heard it, and I shared it. Oh, I share it all the time, and it's transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. We call it in the African American community generational curse. The difference in understanding that word, the difference between these two words is if I tell you, Stacy, hey, I got generational curses in my family, you can be like, child, I got them too. It goes over your head. You don't really stop and take caption of that word. Am I correct?
That's right.
But if I say transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, you're like, oh Lord, is that a disease? What is that? I sort of draw you in on this word, and it make you stop. But then also to add to that, what that means in layman term is that when you, Stacy, when your mother was pregnant with you, your grandmother in her genes in her womb carried your mother and you at the same time. So you're looking at 3 generations of trauma that has been passed down to Stacy, embedded in her DNA. So therefore, you are looking at one of the factors that I share with everyone when I'm in training. By the time you and I reach adulthood, guess what the first thing that we're dealing with? Depression. Everyone, by the time they reach adulthood, is dealing with some form of depression. Then add on what you've been through, learned habits, all the, survival ships and everything, societal norms that have been placed on you. You're trying to identify that, figure out the identity of who you are. So when you compile all of that, yes, absolutely, we are already behind the 8 ball, and we're dealing with so much.
It is like a trauma code is
Yes,
programmed into our DNA. I mean, that
absolutely.
for me as a layman, that's what that says to me. When I first heard you use that term, I was blown away because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scholar, but I could break apart each part of the term, and I knew exactly what it was you were saying. And it screamed to me trauma code in your DNA.
Mhm,
So we get
mhm.
certain things. There are certain things in our DNA that are carried forth that we don't even quite understand and fully process. And I think that's why someone could get, blown back by the terms rather than understanding what exactly that means and how you need to deal with that and address that moving forward. For me, I know, for instance, like I have curly hair. It could even go down to something as simple as eye color, the shape of your lips, your skin color, all types of things. Those things are codes that are programmed in our
Mhm,
DNA, and they
mhm,
are carried forth generation after generation after generation. Now, there are certain codes that present more dominantly at some point. And I think trauma historical trauma or generational trauma is one of those things that could necessarily sit dormant or lie dormant and still be passed on from this person to the next person to the next person to the next generation until it reaches that one where those things are expressed fully in that person. And then you have the perfect storm,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
perfect mental storm for someone to completely fall apart. And I think that is where we need to understand. We need to understand that it exists before that happens. And even if that has already happened for you, I think you need a lifeline. You need someone to say, here's a lifeline, and here's what you do to manage and to establish and start creating. I love how you said, start creating and managing and working toward your healing or working on your healing because it's a process.
Absolutely.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
process. Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh. You have said a mouthful, and I am absolutely tickled that you came here today. I won't put you on the spot and ask you to come back again, but I think this is something that should be addressed. And my audience, I know, is going to be excited to learn more about some techniques that you might be able to share with us, or just maybe some thoughts that you may have on the subject and how we can be better as a people. And it starts with our women. It starts with
Mm-hmm.
our older women and our younger women coming up, don't you think?
Absolutely. The more that I think the more we have those hard conversations, the
Mhm.
more we're able to go back and examine, our culture and the history of our culture, and go back and sit down with grandma and grandpa and listen to what they went through and how they were resilient through the process. The more we begin to understand ourselves. Now, for me, I engage in quite a lot of when I look at all the books that's over here. There's, I'm constantly reading and I'm constantly studying. But there is one book, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joy DeGruy, Degruy, Dr. Joy DeGruy. She wrote and did a documentary on post-traumatic slave syndrome. Post-traumatic slave syndrome gives us a scope of what our forefathers had to endure, our mothers, grandmothers, what they had to endure, the understanding of why we think the way we do, why we speak the way we do, how we have been subdued, you know, to not allow ourselves to stand up, to speak up, to be, and even down to the medical and the our eating habits and our, all of the health issues. The way that this information is really broken down, it forces you and I to begin to do just like what I shared about, the TEI, transgenetic, epigenetic, inheritance, to begin to stop and think, now, what is it? What is it about me and why is it? What am I dealing with? And so when we begin to look at this and examine this scope, what it does is it forces you and I to begin to say, oh, that's high blood pressure. We used to eat this particular way. Those conversations would lead us to begin to understand we used to eat this particular way. But now I have choices and I don't have to eat unhealthy. I can make a conscious decision, but I have to first deal with this area of my mind. Why do I still feel like, even though I'm in a wealthy place, not that you're financially, but you're in a place where you have choices and options. So when I'm in this wealthy place, why do I fail to not make those choices? Why do I choose to be on this medication instead of going out and exercising and changing the way I speak and all of these things in order to help me to begin to be better? So, grasping, getting down to the heart of having conversations and getting to the place to where someone such as myself and yourself can challenge the viewing audience to do that self-evaluation and see herself and himself from a place of not being the victim, but being the victor. What does that look like? What does that look like? I challenge you to begin to say, okay, this word that they're talking about, what is it? What is it about this particular word? What is it about me? What is it about my upbringing? And what is it I'm doing that I have a choice in not doing in order to change the trajectory of my DNA in order for it to be just what you share? It stops here. I get to make that change and I get to be better. And so does my children and the lineage coming after them.
Wow, that is powerful. And you hear it so much. It all boils down to our mindset, the mind recording and that mind narrative, because the
Mhm.
mind is power.
Absolutely. See, there's that imprint,
Mm.
that DNA imprint. It's been stamped, but we have to go against the grain to change it. You hear me?
Uh-huh. I heard you. I heard you now. We had a conversation off camera about that just a moment ago, and that's where I said, I have said this before and people have taken offense at it, but I'm saying it because you really need to challenge yourself
Mm-hmm.
to go against the grain sometimes, because you need to challenge traditional thinking. You need to challenge what it is you believe. Challenge it, because if it's true, it'll stand. But if it's not true, then something else will be revealed.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
oh my goodness. I don't want to belabor the hour or keep you any longer. And I do want to respect your time. But I want to tell you, I am thrilled that you came here today and you gave this information. And I am looking forward to the next time that you will come on and talk to us again, because I absolutely could sit and listen to you all day and learn so much from you. I could. I literally could. So thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime that we can work it into our schedule, we'd be more than happy to support the work that you're doing. And I'm proud to hear about all that great work. So,
Thank you.
congratulations and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having myself in the Rediscover Me community.
All right. Now we're going to give the information one more time before we close
Yes.
out, because I want everyone here to be able to reach out to you, and I want them to be able to get that information about the website, because this is a video podcast. However, I'm not putting anything up on the screen. We're just having a great conversation. Maybe on the next time that you come back, I can present a little bit more formal information to the audience so they can actually see what they're going to be looking at and see your information on the screen. But for today, I just wanted to introduce my audience to you, Dr. McDonald, and I wanted them to know about TEI, right?
TEI.
TEI. So
TEI, transgenetical epigenetic inheritance.
it is everything, and that is a mouthful, but it explains so much. I would love for you to
Mhm.
come back and go into more depth if you would, or just come back and share some of what it is you're doing with us, so that people can start to connect with you, start to understand who you are and what it is you do. And hopefully, through this venue, through this platform, people will start to reach out and get help if they need it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Again, we can be reached through our website at rediscovermewi.org, rediscovermewi.org, one word, as well as through all social media and our phone number. And I didn't give that previously, but our office number is 803-310-3450. Again, that's 803-310-3450. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be able to support you in any area that we call it that place of stuckness. We'll be more than happy to support you in that area. And I thank you so much for allowing me to share this information with your viewing audience.
Thank you again. Once again, that is Rediscover Me, right? I love
Mm-hmm.
the name, because just hearing the name, I have rediscovered me. Just learning about TEI, I rediscovered me. So as I always say, I close out every broadcast by saying the human experience is our classroom and life is our
Mm.
teacher. So at the end of the day, it's all education. Bye.